Welcome. My name is Nick Charlebois, and I'm a Senior Product Manager at Microsoft. In today's session, we'll start by doing a quick overview of Microsoft Graph Data Connect and talk about what it has to offer. Then we'll dive right in, and we'll start talking about some of the new features that are coming to the product. We do have some exciting news to share around our new integration with Azure Synapse Analytics and how we're aiming at enabling a true better together story with Viva Insights and Microsoft Graph Data Connect. There are really three main components to the Microsoft Graph ecosystem. The first one is the REST APIs, which allow transactional operations to be performed against your Microsoft 365 data using CRUD operations: create, read, update, and delete. The second one is the Microsoft Graph connectors, which allows you to bring your on-premises data into the Microsoft Graph to improve the user experience, to create new search-based experiences. And then the third component is Microsoft Graph Data Connect, which allows you to extract your Microsoft 365 data in bulk without being subject to throttling inside of Azure, so that you can use it to create new custom insights to answer questions you have about your data. With Microsoft Graph Data Connect, I can also select what users I want to extract the data from by selecting Azure AD groups that the users belong to. If I want to go and extract information for all users in my tenant, I can do so by selecting the option at the scope level. I can also filter based on different properties. And what's really interesting is that I can decide what fields to extract when I'm doing my export. So in this case here, I can filter out, let's say, the subject, the body of the emails, and remove those from the schema. And these fields will never be extracted from my data set. We now need to talk about datasets. Microsoft Graph Data Connect, as the name suggests, is all about data. Over the past few months, the team has been working tirelessly in bringing the datasets you wanted to the product. And that's not all. The team is getting ready to open the floodgates and bring on dozens of additional datasets over the next few weeks. Let's have a look at datasets that are currently available, datasets that are in preview, and datasets that we're planning on bringing to the product over the next few months. Datasets that are already available include items that revolve around Outlook artifacts. Those include calendar view, contacts, events. We have information about emails. We have mail folders, mailbox settings that will let you understand when people set their out of office. What I want to clarify here is the difference between calendar view and the tree email dataset. Calendar view lets you take a snapshot of a specific user's calendar, so meetings that are appearing on his calendar for a specific date range, whereas events is more around when meetings or invites were sent. The messages dataset will include information about all emails in your inbox. Emails that are in your inbox folders, that are in other folders that you use to go and organize your messages. The sent item will be included in there. Sent items, well, the name says it, it's only emails you've been sending out. And inbox only represents email that are in your inbox folder directly. So the reason why we're providing different data sets that revolve around the same type of artifacts is to allow you to tailor the results based on your scenarios. So maybe you don't need all the messages, right? You're only interested in understanding how people collaborate internally. So the sent item is more than enough in your scenario. From an Azure AD perspective, we provide information around direct reports, group details, members, owners, managers, users. One thing that's really important to note is that all the Azure AD related datasets are free datasets. They are what I consider supporting datasets that allow you to just provide a different lens on your data. From a team's perspective, we finally released the call records dataset. This was one of the top asks that we've had that will include information about who joined the meeting, for how long were they in the call. We have information about channel details, right? So what configuration settings do you have on your channels? Are they standard? Are they private? Information around chats. So those are private chats, so one-on-one and group chats. We also have information around standard channel conversations. On that one, I just want to put a note here. If you look at the future Envision dataset, we will be bringing information around private and shared channel conversations as well in the future. Datasets that are currently available in preview include group conversations for Outlook, the Viva Insights Analytics dataset, which is something we'll cover in the next little while. Then we have information around SharePoint datasets that include information about document sharing, what documents are being shared internally and externally and with whom, information around sites, so site collection metadata, usage, who's been creating, deleting, moving, renaming files. We are bringing the meeting's transcript. So essentially who's been saying what at what time during the meeting. Really interesting scenario here where you can use it to analyze key actions that were discussed in meetings and so on. And as far as the future and envision dataset, we're working on bringing the tasks dataset, more information around files and list items, so the metadata around your SharePoint files and items, bring data from a team's perspective around call quality data. I already mentioned the private and shared channels, and we're also investigating the possibility of bringing some of the Yammer datasets, such as community details and conversations. Let's now talk about Viva. One of the new datasets we've made available through Microsoft Graph Data Connect is the new Viva Insights dataset that provides collaboration insights from the past 90 days. It contains information such as business and after hours collaboration on emails, on Teams, instant messaging, meetings. That includes both scheduled and ad hoc meetings when somebody will call you without formally scheduling a meeting with you. Information about the multitasking time during meetings, conflicting meeting hours, number of direct manager meeting hours, skip level manager meeting hours. We also provide information about the total focus time you have during your weeks, information about how many one-on-one meetings do you have with your peers or with people outside of your organization. And we also provide information about uninterrupted hours during a day. Let's have a look at a simple Power BI dashboard I created using the Viva Insights dataset. At the top here, we can see the overall collaboration hours that my organization had in the past 90 days, compared to the number of collaboration hours that involve at least one external participant. We can see that about 27% of all collaboration in my organization involves at least one participant that's outside of my organization. I can also generate charts to better understand how are people collaborating after hours. I can see here that about 28% of all collaboration that happens after hours is done through emails. Now, one thing that's really important to understand is that this takes all of its power when it's combined with other data sets. Let's have a look at what happens when you combine it with the user data set that you've obtained using Microsoft Graph Data Connect. It provides a complete different lens on the data. What I've done at the top here is I've grouped the after-hour collaboration hours based on offices. And we can see that the Ottawa office is where people tend to work the most after hours. Now that I'm working on my back to the office strategy, this is something that's really important for me to understand. What I can do also is I can do demographics. At the bottom here, what I've done is I've grouped the mode of collaboration based on age groups. So we can see here that there seems to be the exact same patterns in how people collaborate based on their age group. So there's not much difference between people in the 18 to 24 age group and people that are 55 and over in how they collaborate inside of the organization using either schedule call, meetings, IM, emails, and so on. Let's have a look now at what happens if you combine it with the messages or the emails dataset. At the top here, what you can see is the total external collaboration hours based on departments, right? Again, external collaboration hours are hours where you've collaborated with at least one person outside of your organization. We can see that customer service is where people tend to work the most with external participants, which makes sense. But what if you actually bring the emails data set in it and provide a different lens on the data? I want to understand how are people, with whom actually people are collaborating. And I can go in here and take a look at my customer service and say, all right, you know what? Like most of the collaboration that is done with the Hotmail domain. Or compare here, so I mean the second most popular external customer is Insight emails, right? So this is really helpful for me to understand how people are collaborating with external partners, with external customers, and so on. Over the past few months, we've added support for Microsoft Graph Data Connect datasets inside of Azure Synapse workspaces. This will allow you to build your entire extract, transform, load, ETL, and pipelines without ever leaving your Synapse workspace. Using the Synapse Integrate features, you can copy your Microsoft 365 data to an Azure storage account, then use the develop feature to transform it or enhance it with other data. And then finally, you can just store the resulting dataset within your data store of choice. Under the Integrate tab of your Azure Synapse workspace, you can go in and create a new pipeline. And from there, by using the copy data activity, what you can do is you can connect the source of your activity and search for Office 365, which will allow you to pull the data using Microsoft Graph Data Connect. With Azure Synapse, I can use the built-in Spark notebooks to transform my data. In my example here, I'm creating a new notebook that I will use to go and combine data from two different data sets that I've exported using Microsoft Graph Data Connect. Inside of my runbook, I can write any markdown instructions that I want. I can go and provide the code. I'm just going to copy and paste this in. In my case, I'm going to be using PySpark or Python, but there are different other options that are available, such as Scala. You can use C#, you can do Spark SQL. And you need to make sure that you actually attach your runbook to one of the Spark pool that you've created. And from there, I can just go in and execute my code. If you prefer using a no-code approach, you can do so by using the data flow activity, linking your data sets, and then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to go and create a new flow, which will allow us to select the source. I'm going to go in and create a new integration data set, select data lake storage, make sure that I select JSON, and I'm going to go in and select the repository where I exported my Teams call record in this case. I'm now going to do the same thing for the user data set. So add another source, create a new integration data set, ADLS, JSON, and then this time I'll go and select the users folder. Perfect. I now have my two data sets. What I want to do now is I want to combine them. When you click on the plus sign, you're going to see that you have several options that are offered to you, different operations you can do on the data set. In my case, I want to do a join, and I'm going to select the right stream to be my second source, which is my users. I should probably provide better descriptive name, but just for demo purposes, I'm going to leave the default name here. And then I'm going to go and select a destination, which I'll select cache, which will create a new lake database inside of my Azure Synapse workspace. Let's now do a demo. I'm going to use my Azure Synapse workspace to extract the Teams call record data using Microsoft Graph Data Connect and combine it with my users dataset, which I've extracted using Microsoft Graph Data Connect as well. I'm going to be using a no-code approach, which is the data flow that we've already covered in a previous section of this call. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to load it inside a lake database inside of my Synapse workspace. I'm then going to be using Power BI to connect to that lake database and generate some visualization on the data. We're now inside of my Synapse Analytics workspace. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and create a new pipeline that will do many things, but it will start by extracting the data from the Teams call record and users using MGDC. So it is a copy data action that will pull all the fields from the Teams record data set. And the way I'm actually doing the date filter is I'm using a dynamic content, which means, which essentially says, start by taking today's date and by removing one day. So essentially start 24 hours ago all the way up to now. And UTC now is always the time at which you execute a pipeline. So this here will go and grab the Teams call record for the past 24 hours. On the user side, I'm just grabbing everything from all users. What I'll do is I'll use a data flow action in here to go and combine the two data sets and store them inside a lake database. And at the end, you can see that I'm going to go and just delete the files because the copy data actions will essentially store the files as raw JSON inside of an Azure Data Lake storage. So I want to make sure I clean these out after I'm done my pipeline because they will also be stored in a lake database with the data flow action. Let's have a look at the data flow action. I can either click on this expand view here, or if I go under develop, I can see that combine and store is in here as well. And what it does is essentially it starts by Loading the call record JSON from Azure Data Lake Storage does the same thing for the users. It will combine them. The way I'm combining them is on the P user field, which represents the user for which the record belongs to. I'm going to do a dedup, which is really important. So this is a select activity inside of my flow that will essentially say if you have duplicate column names, which I do in this case, just ignore them and just keep one of them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and store it inside of Workspace DB. Right now I don't have any lake database created. So what I need to do is go to the Data tab, and I'm going to go in and create a brand new lake database that I will call build 2022. I'll just go in and I'll publish that. So it is pushing my database. And now what I'll be able to do is if I go back to my flow, so I showed you how to go from the develop tab, I can go back here, just click on this, and I'm brought back to the same location. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to refresh the list, and I'll see my build 2022 database listed here. And I'm going to create a new table called team records. I'm going to go ahead and publish this. It'll validate that my entire pipeline is valid. Everything's looking good. It'll take a few seconds, and once the changes are published, I'm going to go and execute that pipeline. And just because for demo's sake, I will go and fast forward the execution process because it takes about 20 minutes overall to execute. I'll just go in and I'll start the trigger right now. I'll do a manual trigger, but normally because I'm doing 24 hours, it would be a good recommendation to just have a scheduled trigger be triggered every 24 hours. So we'll come back once the pipeline is done executing. I'm going to go to the monitor tab and just start monitoring its execution in the meantime. After a few minutes, I can refresh the page and see that my pipeline completed its execution successfully. What I want to do now is show you how you can get additional insights as to the amount of data that went through the various activities of your data flow. On the data flow page, if you look at the bottom, you're going to see this little stages icon. By clicking on this, it's going to provide you additional insights as to how many rows were loaded at each step of your data flow activity. So this could help you troubleshoot your pipeline. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my lake data flow by clicking on the data tab in the left navigation. I'm going to expand build, and I'm going to see here that if I go in and refresh, I now have my team's record database or table available. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and create a new SQL script, select the rows that are inside of my database and execute this just to confirm that the data was successfully loaded from the data flow activity into my lake database. It should take a few seconds to retrieve the data. And we can see that the teams call records were loaded inside of my database and combined with my users data set. Let us now go to Power BI. What I want to do is I want to connect it to our Azure Synapse workspace. I'm going to do this by clicking on Get Data and then searching on the Synapse connectors that I have available. I'm going to select the Azure Synapse Analytics workspace connector and click on Connect. This is automatically going to list all the Synapse workspaces I have available in my Azure subscription. I'm going to select the one we use to create our pipeline. I'll go and we can see that I have my build 2022 lake database that we created previously. I'll expand this. And then the team's records table is available here. I'll select this and I'll just load it. Now, just like any good cooking shows, I've already prepared the dashboard I wanted to showcase ahead of time. What I've done is I've produced 4 visualizations that could be very interesting to any organizations. The first one is about understanding what types of meetings are happening in your organization. We want to understand how many meetings are recurring meetings, how many meetings were scheduled, and those are meetings that actually happened, right? Where somebody started the meeting. Those are not just meetings that were scheduled and never actually initiated. And really important is how many ad hoc meetings do you have, right? How many times do you have somebody calling you directly from a Teams chat or a channel meeting? We can also have filters by department to understand that, for example, my IT department has 78% of their meetings be ad hoc. This is potentially a problem, and I need to remediate that. The second visualization I have is to understand the trends of how many meetings do we have over time per week. So we can see that there is a spike in the number of meetings on April 8th, right? So that might indicate that the number of meetings are trending upwards. And again, something to address. Now, the average time spent per week in meetings per department. The IT department spends on average 745 minutes in meetings. Compared to finances, that's only 185, right? And essentially what I want to highlight here is the fact that because I was able to combine the Teams call record with the user data set, I am able to get this breakdown by departments. And then on average, my entire organization spends about 48 minutes in meetings. This is the average meeting length. And then again, I can go and drill down by departments as well. So really interesting insights that I can generate with those data sets. I now want to highlight a few key resources that the team has made available to you to help you get started with Microsoft Graph Data Connect. The first one is the list of sample and schema datasets. If you do a Bing search on Microsoft Graph Data Connect datasets and find the datasets, regions, and sync page, you're going to see a list of all the datasets that we support, along with a link to a sample dataset that contains 10 rows of fictive data and the link to the schema. So if you're trying to better understand what is contained within a given dataset, you can get more information as to what each of the fields represents. This will bring you to our main GitHub repo. You can also get to it by going aka.ms/mgdc. This repo also contains some solution accelerators that you can grab and deploy in your environment to help you get started. And we also provide ARM templates to help you get started and automatically deploy the components required by your Synapse pipelines. We have a complete deployment guide that you can follow, and we provide a one-click deployment button for the ARM templates. In this session, we've learned about what's new and coming for Microsoft Graph Data Connect. We've talked about the data sets. We've explained what each of the data set is, what are the new data sets that are coming to Microsoft Graph Data Connect. We've talked about the new Azure Synapse Analytics integration and how you can build your entire extract, transform, load pipeline without ever leaving your Synapse workspace. We've covered the Viva Insights dataset, talked about how to build an entire pipeline from beginning to end and then load it inside of Power BI to generate some meaningful insights for your organization. And we've covered some of the additional resources to help you get started with MGDC. On behalf of the entire Microsoft Graph Data Connect team, I want to thank you for watching this session. We hope you've enjoyed the content, and we hope to see you again next year.